So tonight, if you look at the title, we're talking about success, and the title is Success Starts Inside. Success starts on the inside. Really, what we've been talking about to this point has all been building up to this. And as we move forward out of this week, you will see that this is really the foundation that success is built upon. And the things that we dig into going on down the line will be built upon this foundation that success starts inside. And when I say that, I say it starts on the inside of you, on who you are. Dr. Wayne Dyer, before he died, he had a quote that says, "You don't get what you want, you get what you are." Tonight, we're going to be talking about this connection between our outside world and our inside world. And when we understand that we get what we are, that success starts on the inside. So have you ever noticed that the way you're feeling seems to be lining up with the results that you're getting, or vice versa? What we have to understand is the results that we experience, that we get to enjoy or not enjoy on the outside in our physical reality, is the result of our inside world. They are a mirror image of themselves. Now, hopefully you can look back in your life and really hear the ringing of truth in your ear behind that concept. But we're going to dig into it tonight so that you can understand this foundation, that you can really start to build upon it, and you can start to have control of the success that you experience on the outside. And you do that by starting to take control over the inside world. And we're going to really look into the components that comprise your inside world that lead to outside success. So there's a couple scriptures that I like from the Bible that really bear witness to this concept. First is Proverbs 23:7, probably a familiar scripture. Proverbs 23:7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. As he thinketh in his heart, so is he. And then Proverbs 16:9, a personal favorite of mine, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. These two verses are beginning to inform us that what goes on in here is going to start leading our steps out there. So what are the three parts? There's three parts. What's the three parts to our inner world that lead to our outer world success? Those three parts are: one, decision. The second part is standard. And then finally, it's your character. Decision, standard, and character. So let's dig into those and really understand how those work on our inside as we're trying to push forward goals or achievements on the outside. Let's think about decision. To really understand decision, we got to do a word study and understand what that word decide really means. If you break down that word decide, what it means is to cut off. To cut off. When you make a decision and you make a true decision, it's the times when you cut off any other possibility. When you decide, I am pursuing this and nothing left, nothing else. When you burn your ships or you burn your bridges, most of us aren't really making decisions in life. We're wishing wishes. We're sending out hollow prayers, but rarely do we make a decision that this is what I want and I will pursue it. Because at that point, you begin to close the door to so many other possibilities. And it's at that point that you say, there is no option but success. And you then also say, there is no such thing as failure unless I decide to quit or turn around on this goal. The only possibility going forward is success in this area. So to decide or make a decision. So ultimately, when you want to experience a result on the outside, you're going to need to make a decision on the inside. And you're going to need to cut off all other possibilities, because the day might come where things get hard and there will be plenty of temptations along the way to turn around, to go to the left, to go to the right. in order to continue to the end of your journey, to receive or achieve the goal that you're after, you will have to decide it is this way and no other. So that's the first part. The second part of our inner world that leads to outer success is our standard. What do I mean by standard? Standard is really your reasonable expectation for your life. I would say like a non-negotiable for you. Standard is also your self-worth or what you think you deserve. Standard is also the lid or the ceiling we put over our head, or the lid or ceiling that we allow others to put over our head. I like these two quotes by some famous men. Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Bob Proctor said, we are the product of the books we read and the people that we associate with. So our standard, what is acceptable to us? That's the results that we're going to tolerate. The things that are acceptable for us. Hopefully by now, if you've been working for a while, $5 an hour at your job is not acceptable to you. I don't even know if it's legal at this point. I think the minimum wage is much higher. But when I first started working, I was 15 years old and I was given $5 an hour minimum wage. And I got a raise at 25 cents. So I was up to $5.25. And that's all I made for the 3 years I was working in high school. What is your standard? But see, now I'm 41. I would not work for $5.25 an hour. I've set a much higher standard. Now, the interesting thing happens when you begin to set a standard for your life. Circumstances and results begin to meet that standard, because you're really kind of making a decision on what's acceptable and you're beginning to block off other things. And the interesting thing is God and life will begin to surround you with results that match that standard, that expectation. I think a thing that most people struggle with is you are wanting so much more than your standard. And so what have you likely experienced into this point? When you've wanted more than you're getting, you may want a Lamborghini, but have a jalopy. Your standard, what you've defined as acceptable for your life, is not that Lamborghini. It is the jalopy you drive. So we have to learn to set a standard that is commensurate with the things that we're looking for. And as long as we accept a lower standard, then we'll always likely take the easy way and accept that, rather than continuing to push through hard things, because that lower standard will be available. So how do we raise our standard? If this is so true, and hopefully this rings true and you believe that it is, how can you raise your standard? Well, like Bob Proctor said, we're the product of the books we read and the people we associate with. You're also a product of your environment. So there's three things that I believe that affect your standard, but then you can begin to control so that you can raise your standard. And then therefore, as your inner standard goes up, your outer standard will come to match that. The first thing you can do is expose yourself to next level environment. Something that was really powerful for my wife and I is on a anniversary. We didn't travel abroad, but we stayed at a 5-star resort here locally. And this was a standard that we had never experienced before. Everything was perfect and nice. And the service we got, I'd never been called Mr. Anderson so much in my life. Absolutely. Yes, sir, Mr. Anderson. We heard that all weekend long, but we received a standard of care and of service that we had never experienced before. And after staying for 2 days at this resort, being treated this way and being around this luxury, what do you think happened to us when we left? Our standard had been raised. We had exposed ourselves to a new possibility. And now we saw ourselves, because we were living there, as maybe worth something more than we're used to. But if you spend all of your vacations staying in Super 8s, and hey, I've stayed in plenty of Super 8s, then you are lowering your standard, because the environment that you expose yourself to is subconsciously creating that standard for you. The second thing that you can do, like Bob Proctor was saying, is spend time with next level people. So we're looking for next level results. We're trying to create a next level standard. You want to spend time with next level people. Bob Proctor says we're the product of the people we associate with. Look around your life. Who do you spend the most time with? And what is the quality of the life that they're living? I would guess they're probably mostly living on about the same standard that you are. And so if you're looking to live into success, live into a higher standard, you're going to have to find your way around some people who are living at that next level, so that they, through proximity and through relationship, will start to bring you into a next level, and you'll start to think differently. You'll think like someone on another level. You'll act like someone on another level. You will talk like someone on another level. You will start to become a next level person. The third way that you become, that you can raise your standard is you become a next level person. What do I mean by that? Raise your standard for yourself. Raise the standard in the thoughts that you decide to think. Raise your standard in the words that you speak. Raise the standard in the way that you behave, the way that you treat people, the way that you do your work. Decide, I'm going to raise the standard that's acceptable for me to live. I'm going to live like a next level person, so that as my standard raises on the inside, my standard on the outside will come. See, here's the thing that I believe, and I hope that you will really think about. The only limitation that you have on your life is the one that you put on yourself. Read your Bible long enough, and you'll see that God's desire for you is likely so much greater than you would ever set for yourself. He says that in Ephesians 3, verse 22, and I want to read it because I'll misquote it. And I'm sure most of you know this by heart, but really consider this in this from this position of standard. So Ephesians 3, verse 20. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we can ask or think. See, God is not limited, and his desire for us is not limited. It says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. It says we were created in his image. Jeremiah 29:11 says he has great plans for us to give us an expected end. He wants so much for us. So God is not limiting you. It's the lid that you put over yourself that is likely limiting the results that you stand into. And you're probably thinking, but how is that possible? I want so much and I tried so hard. Yes, but if you believe you're only worth $50,000 a year in a salary because you work around lots of people who make $50,000, then you're likely not going to consider what life is like at $150,000. You likely will walk past an opportunity for $150,000 because you won't see that that is for you. You might think, well, that's for someone else. I only make 50. That's the level that you think at. That's the level that you talk at. That's the level that you behave at. But that may not be all that you're capable of. Chances are you've been created in the image of a creator who's designed you for so much more, not the limitations that you put on yourself. So really quick, you raise your standard by exposing yourself to next level environments, the places that you want to get to. You raise your standard by spending time with next level people, being around the people that are at the places that you want to get to. And you become a next level person by thinking and speaking and acting like someone who lives in the place that you're trying to get to. All right, so we talked about decision. We talked about standard. The third part of this internal success that leads to outer success is our character. It's our character. I think we all understand what this means, but we're talking about integrity. We're talking about the way that you behave, the way that you speak. Like the old adage goes, what do you do when no one's looking? And so if we want greater results on the outside, we're going to need to raise our character on the inside. We're going to need to raise our standard for ourselves on the inside. And we're going to have to decide that we're going to live at a greater level of integrity, that we're going to live with greater wisdom, that we are going to be more intentional with our time, that we are going to be trustworthy with our commitments, that we have an internal composition and fortitude of strength and for more. Your character is so important to your results, and your character is a cap. It is a cap for your long-term results. You will likely Unfortunately, here's the truth, and I need you to really listen very carefully, because there's a lot of people out there that are focused so much on the vision and the vision boards and the cars and the more, and they're never going to get there until they have a character to match that place that they're trying to get to. Your character is going to be the cap on your long-term results. You'll likely never achieve or receive more than your character can handle. And mark my words, if you ever get lucky enough to receive more than your character will handle, it will leak out, because there is an equilibrium balance between your character and your outside. Now, every once in a while, you can push in a new space through sales or a gift or an inheritance. But if your character is not ready for that more, then that more will go away. And you will end up with an outside world that looks just like your inside world. We see that all over the place. We see the children of people who've started with nothing and built empires, and you see it eroded because they grew up in luxury and they didn't have the character the same as maybe their parents who started with nothing. And it was through their sheer character growth that they were able to achieve more. I've told a story before and I'll tell it again to prove this point. There was a man in West Virginia in 2002, and his name was Jack Whitaker. And he won the lottery. And he won $315 million. Think about that right now. What would you do with $315 million? Would you even know where to start? Would you be able to keep it very long? If you had $315 million, would you likely increase it or would it decrease? Well, the unfortunate truth about most lottery winners in the United States is 80% of them are bankrupt within 5 years because they don't have the character to match the amount of money that they receive. And Jack Whitaker was one of those unfortunate stories. And if you ask Jack now about that experience, he said, I wish I would have torn that ticket up because it destroyed him and it destroyed his family. He lost a daughter and a granddaughter to drugs. See, they were given something that they did not have the character to handle. And I believe that it was you are walking with God on the path to your destiny, that he doesn't want to give you any more than you can handle. Because I believe our God loves us so much that he wants to give us things that are a blessing to us when we're ready for them. And if you were to be like Jack and get $315 million that you weren't ready for, that would not be a blessing. It could potentially be your curse. So what builds our character? This is another unfortunate truth that we don't normally like to talk about, but is so important. If you truly want to experience success on the outside, then you're going to have to really dig yourself deep into this concept of what builds your character. And you're going to need to not shy away from this process. So the blueprint that I found is in your Bible, and it's in James chapter 1. So James is in the New Testament, and it's after Hebrews. In the first chapter of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, James writes, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire and wanting nothing. Now that's written in the King James. So I'm going to break it down to you in just some layman's terms. And I think the best way to think about this verse is you work it from the back you work at the end and work back to the beginning. And so the end tells us what God's design is for these trials, what his goal for your life is. God's goal for your life is that you would be perfect and entire and wanting nothing. Another way to say that is like you would be perfect and complete, well-rounded, strong and whole on the inside, and that you would be lacking nothing, that your character would be full, able to handle any situation that you found yourself in, able to be a good steward of any blessing he might give you, able to wield wisdom and leadership and authority in every situation. So God's goal for your life is that you would be a full, strong, mature individual. So if that's his goal, how's he going to get you there? His goal is for you to have strength of character. How's he going to get you there? We'll work our way backwards. He's going to get you there through patience. And patience, being allowed the time to develop this strength inside of you. And so what type of situation does patience need? Well, first, understand that patience is a product of the working of our faith, or our belief that that more is possible, our belief that we're becoming more, our belief that God has more for us. But patience is going to be developed. Our faith is going to be worked out through trials, through tribulations, through the things that we don't like, through all those things that test to see what we're really made out of. Are you made out of road rage, or are you made out of grace? Are you made out of determination, or are you made out of quitting? See, it's God's desire that your character be strong, and he is going to orchestrate the events of your life to strengthen that character, because Proverbs 16:9 says, in his heart a man devises his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So I'm going to tie these two together. So you have a goal in your heart, and you decide the way you want to go. And really, when you begin to walk with God, you'll realize those goals are really inspired. They were a dream placed in you before you were put on this earth. And you might have that goal in your heart, but it's going to be God that orders the steps to get you there. Well, how's he going to order those steps? He's going to order them like James chapter 1. You see, you have a desire for something really big. And for God to give you that something really big, he's going to have to prepare your character first so that you can handle that something really big. And so in the process of answering your prayer and leading you into this wonderful place, he is going to orchestrate trials and tribulations, not because you're judged, not because you're condemned, not because he's forsaken you, no, because he's committed to you. And he's committed to his promise for you. And he wants you to be able to handle a blessing with strength, with maturity, with love, and with grace. It's the trials and the tribulations that build our character. And so if you are wanting more in your life, you can't run from the trials or tribulations. If you are wanting more in your life, you've got to have perspective when things don't go your way. And you've got to understand what's being expected of you. What's expected of you is that you would grow, that you would learn. And with every trial, you would handle it better. With every trial, you would handle it better. And that your character would be made strong. And I promise you, this is an absolute guarantee. This is the way it works. As your character grows, as your standard of what's acceptable for you grows, and as you make decisions about what you want, your outside world is going to change. As I said in last meeting, oftentimes you won't even have to go looking for the promotion. The promotion will come to find you. You won't have to apply for the job will come calling. Because as your inside world outgrows your current circumstance, the next step is being formed and you are being ushered into it, and the doors begin to open. And so if you find yourself in a season, in a step that you're ready to get out of, don't run from it and don't run backwards. Know this: when you're ready for the next step, that step will be there. Remember, Dr. Wayne Dyer said, I think it's a poignant quote that really captures a number of these Bible scriptures. He says, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So if you want more, you have to become more. You want a promotion, you have to become that promotion. You have to start living today like the man or woman who's already been promoted. You want your boss's job, you're going to have to start doing your current job the way a boss would do it. Because again, you'll likely never achieve or receive or be invited into more until more has been formed and created in your heart and on the inside. And as you'll dig in and you'll embrace this process without no work of your own besides the internal game, I promise you, God is going to start opening the doors. The steps are going to be formed in front of you, and you will be walking into success, and you will be walking into increase.